Since the beginning of the 20th century, the world has revolved around the use of antibiotics to fight against bacterial diseases. Antibiotics were the strongest weapon in our arsenal, and no bacteria could stand in our way. However, there has been development of resistance in most strains of bacteria, and with time the resistance has spread to uncountable numbers of these tiny creatures. Our weapons are no longer effective against most of them. With this, the bacteria had launched their counterattack on us, causing untreatable diseases and surviving with their power of resistance. Countless lives have been lost, and some are still fighting till their last breath. Is there an end to this madness? Have these tiny creatures overpowered us? In this documentary, we will come across what are antibiotics in Magic Bullet, about their discovery, how they work, their uses. We will watch how the Magic Bullet has changed to multi-drug resistant superbugs and how the resistance spreads. We would also watch about the adverse effects of antibiotics on the microbiome flow inside our body and what can be done to solve this emerging issue. This documentary is made to make people aware of the rise of superbugs and the need to use antibiotics carefully. In the world of medicine, a number of drugs are made to fight against diseases. Among them, antimicrobials, also known as antibiotics, are the most triumphant chemicals. They have served as a lifesaver by fighting diseases caused by bacteria. The era of antibiotics began with the discoveries of Paul Ehrlich and Sir Alexander Fleming. Paul Ehrlich initiated the chemotherapy revolution. Paul discovered the first chemotherapeutic agent. It was called salvarsan. Following Paul Ehrlich, Sir Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, which had saved millions of lives in the past. Antibiotics have different modes of action. They can be bacteriostatic or bactericidal. Bacteriostatic antibiotics work by preventing the bacteria from multiplying by blocking essential processes such as DNA replication, enzyme action, and protein synthesis. Without being able to carry out these actions, the bacteria won't be able to reproduce. On the other hand, bactericidal antibiotics work by preventing the formation of the peptidoglycan cell wall, after which the bacteria is killed by lysis. Antibiotics are used to treat bacterial infections, for example, cholera caused by Vibrio cholera, TB caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It is also used in chemotherapy and during major surgeries.
After the development of resistance in bacteria, antibiotics were becoming ineffective. The more we have used the antibiotics, the more resistance the bacteria have acquired. Even the last valuable antibiotics are now becoming ineffective. This resistance results from a change in their genetic makeup, which can occur in two different ways. The first way is by mutation in the bacterial DNA. Mutation in the gene coding can result in the production of a modified protein to which the antibiotic cannot bind. Mutation may also result in the production of an antibiotic antibody which would neutralize the antibiotic. The second way of acquiring resistance is by the transfer of the bacterial plasmid from a resistant bacterium to another bacterium. In order to do this, one bacterium communicates with another bacterium by secreting hormone-like molecules which are produced by special enzymes. These molecules then bind to the receptors on the surface of another bacterium and communication occurs.
There are different ways by which resistance can spread. For example, when an antibiotic is used to kill a population of bacteria, there is always a probability that some bacteria may survive. These bacteria then multiply by binary fission to form thousands of resistant bacteria. As they increase in number, at one point the antibiotic will no longer be effective against them. Humans have contributed to the development of bacterial resistance in many ways. For instance, in many countries, doctors prescribe antibiotics to patients who are suffering from viral diseases. It is obvious that this is an unnecessary and wrong action because antibiotics only fight diseases caused by bacteria. Patients do not complete their antibiotic course because they think it is unnecessary to take antibiotics once they feel better. The overuse of antibiotics play a great role in antibiotic resistance. In developing countries like India, Bangladesh, antibiotics can be bought from any drugstore without a doctor's prescription. Drugstores do not require a prescription because this would reduce the sale of their products and thus it would reduce their income.
Apart from killing harmful bacteria that cause disease, antibiotics also kill bacteria that are useful to us. The overuse of antibiotics has an impact on our microbiome flow. There are different species of bacteria that live on and inside the bodies of animals, and these bacteria form a symbiotic relationship with the animals. For example, bacteria in our colon synthesize vitamin K, and some bacteria protect us from microorganisms that attempt to harm our body. The bacteria Helicobacter pylori lives in the stomach of humans and controls the regulation of hormones. But with the use of antibiotics, a large population of this bacteria has been wiped out. Farmers have observed that the treatment of animals with antibiotics caused them to gain weight by eating less, and they have taken advantage of this to increase their profit with a low production cost. But what they do not know is that the use of antibiotics on these animals disrupts the ecological balance of bacteria in their bodies.
Several measures are being taken to solve the issue of resistant bacteria. The government of many countries are setting guidelines for the use of antibiotics on animals. Bacterial diseases are being diagnosed to understand their mechanism of action to help in the development of new antibiotics. As an alternative to antibiotics, vaccines can be synthesized and administered to treat serious diseases to provide long-term protection. Methods are being developed by which bacteria virulence can be inhibited by blocking their communication ability. Patients who are being administered with antibiotics should complete the full course to make sure that all bacteria are dead, instead of stopping once they feel better. Patients often use antibiotics in case of a viral disease, which should be strictly prohibited. Doctors should wash their hands thoroughly after an operation and before seeing another patient. Otherwise, the pathogenic bacteria could be transferred from one person to another. Many bacteria become resistant to antibiotics by using a protein channel called an efflux pump to pump out the antibiotic molecules such as tetracycline out of their system. Scientists are developing ways to block the efflux pump so that the bacteria cannot get rid of the antibiotic molecules. The use of antibiotics should always be a last resort if no other treatments are working against a particular disease. After watching this documentary, many of us may think of antibiotics as our foe, as the use of antibiotics has led to the emergence of superbugs that are causing incurable diseases. Well, from my point of view, I see antibiotics as our friend because antibiotics has played a great role in fighting diseases caused by bacteria, and this has saved millions of lives. It all began with the search for a magic bullet that could kill pathogenic bacteria without harming the host. After the discovery of the first antibiotic, a huge number of these chemicals were synthesized for treating different bacterial diseases. However, bacteria have developed resistance against the antibiotics, and we have reached to a time where many antibiotics are no longer effective against them. We are partly responsible for the emergence of superbugs that has resulted from our misuse and abuse of antibiotics. What we can do now is to prevent further damage to what has already been caused by using antibiotics only as a last resort. Several measures are being taken to solve this catastrophe. This include the use of vaccines, sanitization, prevention of communication in bacteria, etc. The rise of superbugs has a huge impact in the world of medicine, and it has made our greatest weapon ineffective against them. If we continue misusing antibiotics, the rise of the superbugs can cause history to repeat itself to the time when we had no ways to counterattack bacterial diseases.
To ensure that this does not happen, immediate initiative should be taken so that the future does not go dark.